I'm told that it's Tuesday, the 3rd of January here locally, and I was hoping to get an airborne report to show you some of the reservoir levels, but the weather's just been too crummy to go flying. But the Blanco Lirio rain gauge has been working overtime for the month of December, and according to Mark Finan, the meteorologist here at our local KCRA News, that this last December is the wettest December that we've had here in Northern California since 1955. So let's go inside and take a look at the statistics and see what's going on with our reservoirs here in California. And we've got some snow here just again last night, but it's this wet Sierra, it'll turn into Sierra cement with high water content snow. That's what we're getting up in the higher elevations. If you've been following the news about the flooding here in California, it sounds like the end of the world, but it's really some localized flooding that's occurring here in California. This is nowhere near the type of flooding that California has the potential for at this time. The storm door is finally opened up here on the West Coast this month of December, and we've had a series of storms rolling through California, going back here December 23rd, 24, 25, 26, and we had a really good atmospheric river event. Here it comes. This line of clouds here come through on December 30th and the 31st, and that's what got some of this localized flooding off to a good start. But the reservoirs are still well below, well, they're just getting caught up to their historical average at this time, but there's loads of room for additional water storage in our reservoirs, major reservoirs throughout California, because of the last couple of dry years of precipitation. And it's going to take all of this precipitation and probably a whole nother season's worth in order to refill our major reservoirs at Oroville and Shasta. Here from our highly calibrated Blanco Lirio rain gauge on the back porch here at the 3,200 foot level, we've got a whopping 24 inches of rain just in the month of September, where the average for the month of September is only 11 inches here in Nevada City, California. So we've got a total of 33 inches of rain so far this rain season, whereas our entire rain season average is about 58 inches of rain. So we're ahead on our rain to date at this time, and the 10-day forecast looks great for additional rainfall. And that last storm, atmospheric river, right there at the end of December, brought nearly 8 inches of rain here locally, and this is what our local South Yuba River looks like at the old Highway 49 bridge during that storm. Churned up the waters quite a bit, but during extreme flooding events or atmospheric river events, this water level is all the way up to the bottom of this arch. I've even seen it as high as nearly up to the bottom of this roadway on this bridge before. However, just to the few miles to the south of us, that atmospheric river lined up and provided quite a bit more rain than what we got here. Most of our major watersheds here in the north end of the state, their watersheds are impounded by major dams that makes Northern California and the Central Valley inhabitable for flood control. Here in the Sacramento area, Folsom Lake impounds the runoff from the American River system. Moving farther north, the middle and north forks of the Yuba are impounded by Bullard's Bar Reservoir right here. The Feather River, huge watershed, is impounded by Lake Oroville. And further up north, the Sacramento watershed by Shasta Lake. So for example, coming into Sacramento yesterday, I was able to get these shots looking out the right side of the airplane. Here's Folsom Reservoir right here and Lake Natomas right here, which is controlling the American River, which converges with the Sacramento River right here in downtown Sacramento. Doing an excellent job of flood protection for the city of Sacramento. But just to the south of here is the Cosumnes River, which has no dam on it at all, and that area near Wilton, California, was subject to some flooding. Here's a little closer look at the Sacramento River just south of town. Mount Shasta off in the distance to the north, up there by Shasta Lake. Now, just south of Sacramento is where this Cosumnes River comes in, and there was some flooding right along here, along the Cosumnes River, and I understand there was a minor levee break that resulted in some more of this flooding. But you can see the development of Sacramento to the south is pushing up against the floodplain of the Cosumnes River, and so it's critical that these levees be maintained along this river, as there's no other form of flood control in the form of a dam upstream of the Cosumnes River. Here's a little closer look at that flooding as we flew over. It's already beginning to recede a bit, but they are watching this closely for the next series of storms coming into the area. If we look at a quick overview of the reservoirs to date here in California, we can see that they're just getting up to, well, historical average. The green bar is historical average to date. Many of the reservoirs are still well below historical average. Folsom and Bullard's Bar have both popped up quite a bit in the last couple of days and are at or above historical average. And those reservoirs, Folsom's a relatively shallow reservoir, so it filled up pretty quickly. We'll look at the numbers here. And they're already releasing water out of Folsom Reservoir as they're going to raise the level of the water in these reservoirs up to the flood control level, not the full level. They're not going to fill them right up this early in the rain season. They're going to bring them up to a flood control level, keep it at that flood control level by using the spillway releases, and then towards the end of the rain season, in several months' time, they will then allow the runoff from the snow to top those reservoirs off safely once outside of the flood risk time of the year. So now let's go back and look at the numbers for Folsom Reservoir shown here, which impounds the American River watershed just above Sacramento, California. Full pool for Folsom Reservoir is 466 feet. As of today, it's 428 feet. So it has come up a whopping 51 feet in elevation from a low of about 377 feet at the beginning of the month of December to its current level, 428 feet. Inflows, look at that, December 31st, peaked at 106,000 cubic feet per second during that atmospheric river event on December 31st. And here you can see the storage at Folsom just went nearly vertical in this graph over that time period. And here's what the water level looks like in Folsom through the month of December, getting a big jump here at the end of the month up to its current level. And you can see they're already lowering slightly the level of Folsom Lake. But that's only happening at Folsom right now. Over here at Oroville Reservoir on the Feather River, remember the full pool for that is 900-foot elevation, and they are just up to 711 feet right now. So nearly 200 feet to go yet at Oroville Reservoir to the full pool, and still 100, 150 feet just to even get to the flood control level for Oroville. So here we see Oroville just slowly coming up, but steadily for the year, as shown over the last month or so. And if we look back at the hourly data for Oroville, back on the 31st, they had a peak inflow of about 51,000 cubic feet per second into Oroville. So about half of what they saw down there at Folsom Reservoir, showing you just how directional the fire hose is on these atmospheric rivers, where it sets its aim up for along the Sierra Mountain range really determines who gets the most water, who gets the brunt of the storm. Remember too, if you're new to this channel got started it really got on the map back in 2017 when the spillway failed at the Oroville Reservoir, and we covered that story extensively for 2 years. And remember, during that emergency situation, we were seeing inflows into Oroville in February of 2017 of about 150,000 cubic feet per second. So many more times the amount of this inflow here. And that's why I say this current flooding is nothing compared to the flooding potential here in California. Back in 2017, when this spillway failed, these reservoirs were already full, and the downstream infrastructure of all the levees along the Sacramento, Marysville area were at their maximum capacity and could not handle any additional flow. And the failure here at the spillway at Oroville, they were unable to control the flow out of Oroville Reservoir, thus, well, creating that very precarious evacuation out of Oroville for fear of losing the entire emergency spillway, but also just filling up completely the entire capacity of the levee system all the way down through the system from Oroville to Sacramento. And of course, I stayed with this story all the way through the rebuild of the spillway there at Oroville. And the 10-day forecast looks great for additional rain, much needed rain for California to refill our reservoirs. It's going to take a whole season's worth of rain like this in order to refill our major reservoirs. It might even take 2 seasons of rain like this to really get Oroville and Shasta topped off. Meanwhile, in the High Sierra, where our money is banked, the snow in the mountains, we currently statewide have 175% of normal snowpack for the Sierra Mountains throughout the entire state. And look at some of these numbers at some of these various ski resorts. Look at that Mammoth Mountain, 167 inches of snow. And this snow has a high water content to it right now. So that's what is best slowly released into the reservoirs at the end of our rain season. But the concern is getting more rain than snow, and more rain at higher elevations, and washing away much of the snowpack early or too early in the season. So if you're new to the Blanco Lirio channel, I say welcome aboard, and remember to check your notifications setting on your subscription, because a lot of these videos I do, like I've got the series of 3 videos on Sydney, they kind of are additive, and a lot of the questions you may have were already previously addressed in the previous 2 videos of a 3-video series. So you need to stay current and qualified by keeping your subscription up to all notifications on the Blanco Lirio channel. And the best way to support the channel overall is to join the over 3,000 folks that have joined us over here on Patreon, as this really helps support the channel outside of the purview of YouTube and the vagaries of advertising income. Thanks so much for your support of this channel. See you here.